What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Jethro Tull and their 1977 album Songs from the Wood. And as you can see, I now have a vinyl copy. Major thank you to Vera, who not only provided the album in digital form, but sent me a full vinyl copy of it. And in fact, it's not just any vinyl copy, it's the 40th anniversary edition, which it also lists as the Steven Wilson remix, which I'm assuming means the songs have been remixed in a, sort of mastering or, taking the levels and adjusting them, not like a remix from the techno world where, it's a new artist putting their own spin on a track, which of course, goes back to like 12-inch mixes from the 80s and so on. Nevertheless, the point is, that's my assumption, is that the Steven Wilson remix is a like remastering of the original album. Nevertheless, I'm very excited to have a vinyl copy, and we are going to listen to the last tune, so we're going to conclude the last track with this vinyl copy. I do also like the back cover with the tree stump, which, not only has the tree rings, but, viewing that like a vinyl record with its grooves and having a tone arm and a stylus on the tree stump. That is very clever. But the last track is Fire at Midnight, which certainly creates an image, and even though it doesn't necessarily specify this, I'm thinking of a fire pit, around which people might gather in the woods, in the forest. So I wonder if that is the case. I will note when I took off the shrink wrap that there is this large booklet in here, which I'm assuming, not only does it have, seemingly some background and, photographs or images from the band, but I'm guessing the lyrics are in here too? Maybe not. It looks like this is all like an article, a biography. And look at the band here in this photo. This is fantastic. So, yes, I guess I don't necessarily have the lyrics at hand here, which I thought I would. Either way, I'm excited to hear this final tune, which apparently was recorded the 23rd of September 1976 in Studio 2. Take 3 was the master. So yes, this is, like a full deluxe edition with a lot of extra information and, sort of a like background on presumably the album and the band. I will certainly go through that in time, but for now, let us listen to the final track of this album, which, as you'll know if you've been watching these reactions to the album, I've been very impressed by the musicianship and the creativity of composition, and a couple tracks having this, oldie-timey style, not just like throwback, but almost, like Middle Ages sound, some of them having a very like magical folk type of sound, and lots of drumming that is rhythmic but also like unpredictable and very dynamic and complex. So yes, I've been very impressed by the instrumental skill of this album. In any case, let's hear it. This is Fire at Midnight, the last track on Jethro Tull's 1977 album Songs from the Wood. The groove here between these two tracks is very small, and also, as you may be able to tell, my light on my turntable, it's burned out. It doesn't work anymore, so it makes it even more difficult to see exactly where to put down the stylus.
When the dogs have all been fed, a golden toddy on the mantle, a broken gun beneath the bed. take off your makeup, fold your clothes neatly away. Me, I'll sit and write this love song as I all too seldom do. Build a little fire this midnight. It's good to be back home with you.
That it? That's funny. Okay, so I'm glad I talked in the intro the way I did, because this one both had a bit of an oldie-timey feel and also a bit of that folk magic, but mixed with a rock and roll type of sound. So yeah, like part classic rock, parts, early modern, if not, late Middle Ages sound, part folk, but also with a bit of, mystery or magic to it. And definitely a bit of a like cycling rhythm with the percussion and the melody. And yeah, lyrically I feel like this is more a fireplace and a hearth or something, which is to say he's talking about coming home, what is it, kick up the embers at the end of another day essentially, and the idea of what is it, going upstairs, taking off your makeup, folding your clothes away. As for him, he's going to be writing this love song, which he all too seldom does, which I like the phrasing there. So, in a way, it speaks to, the cycles of the day, but also the comfort and familiarity of coming home at the end of, being out and working, or like being out in the world, and then going back to your place, which is cozy and which allows you to maybe pursue something which you don't get to do often enough, and is maybe something that like where your passion truly is, but which you can't always do because you have to work or you have to take care of things outside of this comfortable place. So the idea of a fire at midnight, maybe the idea of the flame being renewed, or being extinguished at the end of the day, but that being itself like the first part of turning over and doing it all again. And again, the idea of being by the firelight in a cozy room, where you've put away all your work clothes, or you've sort of taken off the mask, the makeup that you have to put on when you go outside. So it feels like there's something that is very specific to this narrative, and yet the concepts behind it feel like more broadly human, if you will. And maybe, of course, I'm missing this entirely and there's something more detailed or specific happening here. Nevertheless, a really incredible album. I have absolutely enjoyed my introduction to Tull, as people have called them, and it's a name I knew going back, and I was aware of them as a band, but now having heard them, I get it. I get why they have this reputation that is enough that, even someone who wasn't necessarily following a lot of classic rock, my older brother did, and, I ended up hearing a lot of classic rock, at least, one or two songs from some of these bands when I was growing up. But yeah, it turns out, this is a band that even without that exposure, because I don't remember my brother listening to them, that I was aware of. And again, having now heard an album, I totally get it. So thank you again to Vera for the digital album, and especially for this vinyl copy, which it'll be nice to now, just put it on. And I mentioned this before, when I do reactions, because of the nature of my videos, and, it's not really convenient for me to shoot like long form videos. I mean, I have done some like classical music movements and symphonies where the movement is like 20 minutes long, so the video ends up being 30 minutes long. But there is like a challenge to that, and generally speaking, doing one song at a time, it works for me in this reaction format. But once I do reactions to albums I've never heard before, I then tend to put them on in the background, or I take them into my car, or I just listen to them in a more full and immersive respect. So I will certainly do that with this album. And yes, big shout out to all of you who've taken an interest in this album journey and deep dive, and ultimately I am keen to hear more from Tull. Let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.